We're going to make some bunting now. I've got different shapes and sizes, so I'll just show you how to make one because the rest is exactly the same. So first of all, we've got this one, which is wonderful, and they're in a lovely size for the garden bunting. So just keep going and going. Made my own straps and things, so it's just really lovely. Lots of top stitching so that when you wash it, it's going to keep its shape. So that's one. Then we've got the rectangle one. Don't forget you can also mix and match these as well, so you can put the different shapes all on one string. So that's another lovely one. So you can string that along your garden. All matches the quilts and the table runners and everything. Lovely size. Then we've got a small version if you wanted to make something a bit smaller, maybe to hang indoors or outside from tree to tree or something like that, whatever you like really. And then the one I'm going to show you how to make is the traditional one, which is this one. And this is a nice big size. So once again, you could mix and match it with the other shapes, whatever you fancy doing. So we've got part of it made just for a bit of time saving, and I'm going to show you how to put it together and how to join your straps and the important bits. And just to follow this, this makes it easier if you do a 1/2 inch seam allowance when you're trying to turn it out, because if your seam allowance is 1/4 inch, if you can't get into that shape, it's very difficult to poke the corners out to get a nice shape. So 1/2 inch just makes it better. It makes it wider at the point in which to turn it. So first of all, we're going to join our straps together. So you decide how long you want your bunting. It can be twice as long as mine, doesn't need to be as long. And I've taken 2 pieces of fabric, because this is to make my binding, and they're 2 inches wide. So just double check that I'm telling you correct. Yeah, 2 inches wide. So imagine these are 2 long straps. I've pinned them together, and I'm going to sew from one end to the other to make sure that I get a nice fold like so, but we're going to be able to cut away the bulk. If you sewed them from edge to edge like this, it's just a bit bulkier, whereas you're distributing the bulk when it's on a diagonal. So the way I remember this, because sometimes, you know, you're sewing and you forget and you end up where it's gone wrong way, is you have your long piece facing towards your machine and your other long piece to your left. And if you do that, and you sew from your left to your right, you're going to be fine each time. You can draw a line, you can eyeball it. I do different ways actually. Sometimes I can be bothered and sometimes I can't. Depends what mood I'm in. So I'm going to just sew across this line here. And you might need to join once or twice, depending on how long you want your straps to be. Get my scissors. Before you chop it off, just do make sure that it's one continuous piece, which it is. So then I'm going to cut off around about 1/4 inch. Take off those sticky out bits. Finger press my seam open, and now it's distributed along the fabric. So for time, I've already marked my lines, so you're going to then press in half, so it measures 1 inch, and then you're going to press into the centres and then fold again. And when you fold again, that gives you your binding for your bunting. It's as easy as that. But on the ends of your bunting, you need to fold them in something like 1/2 inch, something like that. Then fold them over so that you've not got no raw edges when you come to finishing off your edges, because you don't want them raw and fraying like so. You want them tucked in, nice and tidy. And another thing I can tend to do as well is I might just take off those little bit of corners there, not right down to the fold, but just take a bit off. So when you fold it in, once again, you're taking away a little bit of bulk, because it always helps when you're sewing. And that's your straps. So we'll move on to the next bit, which is actually putting the bunting together. And you can either, you could draw on your bunting, measuring it 1/2 inch, or if you've got a plate on yours that shows you where your 1/2 inch line is, then you could do it that way instead. So that's my 1/4 inch, that's my 1/2 inch. I'm going to line it here. I'm just going to sew down. Just got a bit of cotton caught there for some reason. There we are, it's not caught anymore. Keep going. Now another thing that you could do to make sure that you stop at the right point is to get your ruler and get a pen and just measure your 1/2 inch mark at the bottom so you don't take your needle any lower. So I'm going to eyeball that and pretend I did that. One more, I think. And then I like to turn the stitches a little bit before I go straight back up, because that gives me a better chance of being able to turn it out. We'll do the second one. You don't really need to backstitch. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, because you're going to catch it in with your binding anyway. Once again, you could have marked the bottom so you know where to stop. And then when you get to there, I like to turn it just a few stitches at a time. There we are. Back up we go. And it's not really important for the seam allowance, it's just important so you can get it turned out at the bottom. The other shapes are dead easy because one's like an oval shape and the other one's just a square at the bottom. So now it's time to cut back all this seam allowance, because you don't want it getting in the turning out, and we want to top stitch these as well. So I'm just going to go all the way around where I've sewn, and then I just want to take it not too close because I don't want to be pushing it through, but just close enough to get rid of a bit of that bulk, because it does help when turning it through. So that's that one done. I'll cut the other one down. There we go. Once again, get a bit closer, but not too close so it's going to break stitches. Then we're going to turn. And you need something like a knitting needle or a turning tool or something that you can just use to get it turned through. So just do this first. Now, just keep going at the edges. I'm going at each seam in the hope that I can push it through. So I'm going left to right rather than straight up the middle. Don't know if it makes any difference, but it makes me feel better. There we go. We're nearly ready to top stitch that. If you get your seam in the middle, you can just finger press it so that when you push it up and it's going to kind of just fall in place, which it has. So do the next one. I could have pushed that out a tiny bit better, might go back to that. So. If it's something too sharp, like a pair of scissors, chances are you're going to go straight through. I reckon most of us have done that. There we go. That's better. So press those seams, and then when you open it up, it should fall into place near enough. Let's just go back to that one. A little bit more I think that needs. That's better. So now we're ready to top stitch, so move my stitch up. This is a step you can skip if you like. I just like, first of all, I like the look of it, and second of all, I think when you're washing them, you've more chance of them laying flat. So I think this part is just purely personal preference, and you'd either do it or not bother. So I'm about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. And when they're blowing in the wind, you're not going to really notice if you're totally 100% straight. Just do the best that you can. Try and get your seams. I'd have probably given this, well I would have done, I'd have given this a little press before I did my top stitching. That's one. Next one. So, line it up. Not having none of it, just give me a second. Start again. That's it. I was just too near the edge and it didn't like it. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close these tops up because it just makes it easier when I'm putting them in between the binding. Make sure I don't miss out really. get rid of all my threads and little bits of fabric we don't want that's sticking over. There we go. So now it's time to attach it to the binding. So what I've done with mine, and this once again is personal preference, depends how long you've made your binding, it depends how much of a gap. You could actually put them close together so you've got no gap whatsoever, or you could do a much wider gap. It's totally your choice. And like I said earlier, you could do different shapes. You could have triangle here, then you could have the oval, then you could have a square, and so forth. So I've decided to do roughly about 2 inches in between each of mine. And before I started putting them on, I started in the middle. So that gave me a good idea to how many, once I'd made me binding, how many I could fit on. So we're going to keep going. So I've pinned them all. And these clips, as long as when you clip them on, as long as the back is not hanging over the clip like the front, and you sew slightly in, you will catch both sides. Because this is a bit like the same technique when you're binding on a quilt, to catch both sides. It doesn't always work, but most of the time it will. So that's about 2 inches there. I'm going to pop this one on. So I just need to sandwich it now. If I put with the clip on, just let me make sure that I've got my measurement right. And I could do with shifting over just a weeny bit. There we go. Fine. So now pop that between the two sides. Take that clip off, it'll help. There we are. Clip both sides. Then another clip, making sure that that isn't over. If this was like that and the other side was at the front down here, it wouldn't marry. So you just got to make sure both sides are marrying the same, so you know when you sew above where that clip is, you've definitely caught the other side. So now another 2 inch. It's about there. I might have to move it again. So this is my last one I'm putting on. Let me check. Oh, that was a good one. So now put my last one on. And then they're all clipped, and like I showed you earlier, the ends of mine are all folded in as well, so I've got no raw edges. I'm going to sew not just top stitch on the bottom, but I'm going to top stitch on the top as well, so that gives me 2 chances of catching my bunting to make sure it's nice and sturdy and lasts a long time. So start here. Maybe start here. Can't make my mind up. We'll start here, I think. But I'm not sewing right on the edge. I am sewing in because I really want to make sure that I catch it. Put your stitch length back down to a regular stitch length. I need to make sure I catch both sides. All these clips out of the way, they're going to end up everywhere. try and keep the project straight when you're joining it inside. That's it. And this is another gorgeous fabric. This is beautiful peaches. And I think the backing fabric goes with everything. Such a nice versatile pattern. And just sort of nice, steady pace, making sure that you've caught everything. I haven't even looked, have I? Shall I have a look? Yeah, got that one. Can't see the other one yet. I'm well in from my clip, you see, so there's no reason why it shouldn't catch unless it's shifted on me. Yep, it's all caught. I'm just following the centre of my foot actually. I totally ignore the needle. Because that just sends your eyes funny and you'll never get a straight line. In my opinion. So I like to follow somewhere on the foot when I'm sewing, and that really helps me keep straight. Keep pushing your bunting back inside your binding so that you know that that's all getting caught as well at the edges. This is where I joined mine. I can just feel it, but it's not over bulky. The machine's gone over that lovely. Let's have another quick peek. Yeah, we caught everything. See, once you go across the top, it's not a problem because you've already caught it once. Just a few more to go. Very quick to make his bunting. It's a lovely little, just fancy a bit of a sew. It's a lovely, quick, easy project. Right, nearly there now to the end. Then we just got to run along the top, and I'm probably going to speed things up for that because now we need to go back a bit because I'm that busy chatting away that I forgot to put my bunting in. It came out. I'll just stick it in there. Push this underneath. Make sure it's still catching it. There we go. Good job I didn't decide to do a mile, isn't it, of bunting? Right, here we are. You can see how many clips I put in though. I think it's important to keep everything in place. Last one. And if you thought this were easy, the other shapes are even easier. Really easy. So along we go. And we've been checking more or less most of it as we've gone along. It's caught the lot, so I don't need to go back and start restitching out. I'm just finishing off this strap. Take my time over these. They're a little bit bulkier, even though I've chopped extra bits off. Still want to make sure that we catch it all. Right, now I'm going to speed up a little bit because everything's caught. I'm not worried that it's going to come off. I'm only doing an extra kind of security stitch. I'm watching the middle of my foot to keep as straight as I possibly can. And we're not far off finishing this project. A bit bulkier there where I joined my binding. If you don't want to go fast on the last bit, just meander along. Feel a bit of bulk there, just be careful. And that is where I did another join. So I'd obviously joined two pieces together to get this length. Good way of using up scraps and all. You can join it as many times as you want. Nearly at the end. Last bit. And these machines pretty much feed it through for you anyway. So now, just going to get to the end. not a good idea to go fast over bulk though. So take time over the ends. Do a little bit of a back stitch. Chop off all my threads. And you've got some really professional looking bunting. But it all matches, the binding matches, it's all, you know, it feels substantial is the word I'm looking for. And here we are, it's all finished. Isn't that lovely, that? So now you can have a go.